Listen and learn English through story. Chapter 1. A New Beginning. In the heart of a bustling city, a charmingly antique building stood tall, imbued with an age-old charisma and endless tales. Among its many dwellers, the latest entrants were a young couple named Emma and Jake. With excitement in their hearts and dreams in their eyes, they made their way into apartment 13, their new abode. Emma, a petite woman with striking blue eyes and a vibrant smile, was a bookworm and an artist. Her hair was a cascade of soft brown curls, bouncing gently as she moved. She had a passion for all things vintage, and the apartment's old-world charm was exactly what she had dreamed of. She had a keen eye for detail and a soul that craved adventure, making her eager to create new memories in their new home. Jake, on the other hand, was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a ruggedly handsome face that was a mix of sharp and soft features. His deep-set green eyes were full of warmth, reflecting the heart of an old romantic. A software engineer by profession, Jake possessed a calm and rational demeanor which perfectly balanced Emma's spontaneous spirit. As they stepped inside the apartment, the sight that greeted them was enchanting. The aged wooden flooring creaked under their weight. The high arched windows let in slivers of warm sunshine, and the faded yet intricate wallpapers painted a picture of times long past. "Jake, look at these moldings!" Emma exclaimed, her eyes scanning the ornate plasterwork on the ceiling. She was in awe, her artist's eye appreciating the craftsmanship. Jake chuckled at her enthusiasm, watching her dart around the space like a child in a candy store. He was more concerned with the practical aspects, his engineer's mind ticking off potential problem areas. But seeing Emma so happy, his heart swelled. "It's perfect, Em. Just like you said," he responded, his gaze soft. Their joyous chatter filled the empty apartment as they explored, planning where to place their furniture and how to decorate their space. As the sun set, they were sprawled on the floor amidst empty pizza boxes, sharing stories and laughter. But amidst the joy and anticipation, a strange chill began to creep in. Dismissing it as the usual cold of an old building, they bundled up together and allowed their exhaustion to guide them into sleep, oblivious to the fact that apartment 13 was more than it seemed. Chapter 2. The First Night. Their first night in apartment 13 was filled with a mix of thrill and nervous anticipation. While the apartment had a magnetic charm, the darkness of the night seemed to amplify its mystery. The couple, eager to establish their new life together, overlooked the unease that had begun to creep into their minds. Jake attempted to set up their makeshift bed, trying to create a semblance of comfort amidst the boxes that littered the room. His usually cheerful green eyes reflected a hint of concern. He looked over at Emma, who was perched by the window, her blue eyes staring into the night. "Are you okay, Em?" he asked, concern seeping into his tone. Emma turned towards him, offering a half-hearted smile. "Just thinking about the history of this place," she responded, her gaze drifting off into the distance. As they settled in for the night, the chill they had experienced earlier seemed to grow, wrapping the apartment in its icy grip. The radiators, no matter how high they were cranked up, seemed ineffective against the bone-deep cold that neither of them could shake off. "You feel it too?" Emma whispered, her voice barely cutting through the cold air. She huddled closer to Jake, her body instinctively seeking warmth. Jake nodded, pulling her closer. "We'll have someone look at the heating tomorrow," he reassured her, his voice a comforting rumble against her ear. Unseen by them, a shadow moved in the corner of their room. A weird noise like a sigh echoed faintly in the apartment. It was their first night, and apartment 13 was beginning to wake up. It seemed as though their presence had breathed life into the dormant entity within. Chapter 3. The Persistent Cold. Days turned into a week, and the chill within apartment 13 became an uninvited guest that refused to leave. No matter the weather outside, the temperature inside the apartment remained uncomfortably low. Despite having a technician check the heating system, the cold remained, an inexplicable phenomenon that the couple struggled to understand. But the persistent cold wasn't the only issue. The couple began to notice other twists, fleeting shadows that disappeared as quickly as they appeared, a sense of being watched when they were alone, and strange noises that didn't seem to have a source. The apartment that once charmed them was gradually becoming a source of unease. One evening, while cooking dinner, Emma felt a gust of cold air behind her. Whirling around, she found nothing but empty space. "Jake!" she called out, her voice betraying her fear. Jake rushed in from the next room, worry etched on his face.
"What's wrong, Em?"
"I felt something cold, as if someone just walked past," Emma stammered, hugging herself against the chill. Jake was quick to brush it off, attributing it to the broken heating system. "We'll have it fixed soon, Em," he said, his rational mind refusing to accept the inexplicable. The couple attempted to go about their daily lives, ignoring the constant feeling of being watched and dismissing the strange shadows as tricks of light. They chose to believe in the rational explanations, their minds shying away from accepting the inexplicable happenings in their new home. Emma and Jake were yet to understand the depth of the mystery that they had walked into. They were still viewing their difficulty as a technical problem, not a supernatural one. The stubborn cold, the shadows, and the eerie feeling of being watched were all signs they chose to overlook, unaware that these were the indications of the chilling reality of apartment 13. Chapter 4. Shadows of the Past. Curiosity piqued and somewhat disturbed by their experiences, Emma and Jake started researching the history of their building. In an old local library, they found archived newspaper clippings and articles detailing the mysterious happenings associated with apartment 13. People had left abruptly. Some spoke of odd occurrences. Others refused to talk about their time in the apartment. The building's past was tainted with stories of hauntings and paranormal activity that seemed too bizarre to be true. Over a cup of coffee at a nearby cafe, Emma spread out the articles before Jake. "Listen to this," she said, her finger tracing over a faded news clipping. Mr. Harold Hughes, a former tenant of apartment 13, claims to have experienced unexplained phenomena during his stay. From objects moving on their own to seeing spirits, his account has added to the mystery of the notorious apartment. Jake frowned, skepticism etching lines on his forehead. He was a man of logic, finding it hard to accept the tales of the supernatural. "These could be just stories, Emma. You know how people love to exaggerate." Emma wasn't as dismissive, her artistic mind more open to the possibilities of the unknown. "But what if there's some truth to it, Jake? It could explain the things we've been experiencing." Unknown to them, the couple was slowly peeling back the layers of a past that had long been buried. Each revelation brought them closer to the scary reality of apartment 13. Chapter 5. Unexpected Discoveries. One sunny afternoon, in an attempt to bring some warmth into their persistently cold apartment, Emma and Jake decided to renovate. They began with scraping off the old wallpaper, hoping to give the place a fresh, lively feel. Hours into the process, a dull thud echoed in the room as Jake's scraper hit something solid behind the wallpaper. Upon further inspection, they found a concealed door, masterfully camouflaged into the pattern of the wallpaper and the woodwork. Their curiosity piqued. The couple exchanged a glance before Jake slowly turned the cold metal knob, the door creaking open under his touch. The room hidden behind was small and bare, save for a few old, dusty items, a child's broken toy, an old discolored photograph of a family, a tattered diary, and a peculiar locket. The items seemed to belong to an era long past, the items innocuous, but strangely unsettling. Emma gingerly picked up the photograph, blowing off the dust. The faces of a man, a woman, and a little girl smiled back at her from a time long past. There was something disturbingly familiar about their faces, something that sent a shiver down her spine. "Jake!" Emma's voice was barely a whisper as she handed him the photograph. He looked at it and frowned. "Isn't this—" He let his voice trail off, his heart pounding in his chest. The resemblance was uncanny. The faces smiling back at them from the photograph bore a striking resemblance to their own. A chill ran through them, their blood turning cold. The room felt colder than the rest of the apartment, an oppressive silence hanging in the air. It was as if the room had been holding its breath, waiting to be discovered, and now it had exhaled, releasing its long-held secrets. As the couple stood there, surrounded by the relics of the past, they could feel the atmosphere thicken around them. This unexpected discovery was just the beginning. The uncovered secrets seemed to breathe new life into the haunting tales of Apartment 13, bringing them closer to the truth that they had initially brushed off as mere myth. Chapter 6. Unraveling Secrets. Shaken by the uncanny discovery, Emma and Jake decided to delve deeper into the mystery. The photograph had triggered a cascade of questions, and they were eager to find answers. They turned their attention to the dusty, worn-out diary found in the hidden room, hoping to glean some understanding of the photograph. The diary belonged to a woman named Margaret. It was filled with beautiful, although sorrowful, handwritten entries that gave a glimpse into her life in Apartment 13 during the early 1900s. She wrote about her husband, Edward, and their young daughter, Emily. Emma read the entries aloud, her voice resonating in the chilling silence of the apartment. The entries started as ordinary records of their day-to-day life, but gradually began to touch upon strange events. Margaret wrote about unexplained occurrences, much like what Emma and Jake had been experiencing. The couple exchanged a glance. The uncanny similarities between their experiences and Margaret's account were hard to dismiss. One entry stood out, causing the couple's blood to run cold. Margaret had written about finding a hidden room behind the wallpaper, much like they had. She described discovering an antique locket in the room, identical to the one Emma now held in her hand. The locket, according to Margaret, was said to harbor a nasty spirit. Suddenly, Emma felt a chill run down her spine as she clutched the locket. She could not shake off the feeling that they had disturbed something by opening the hidden room and unearthing its secrets. Jake, usually the skeptic, found himself battling with the reality of their situation. The diary entries, the uncanny resemblances, and the increasingly strange happenings in Apartment 13 were getting harder for him to dismiss. As they delved further into the diary, the veil over Apartment 13's past started lifting, revealing a history of haunting that was now repeating itself in a chilling cycle. With every page they turned, Emma and Jake found themselves tangled deeper in a web of secrets and supernatural occurrences that had once been Margaret's reality and was now becoming theirs. Chapter 7. The Spirit. Late one night, the boundaries of reality blurred for the first time in apartment 13. Emma woke up to a faint sound of a child's laughter echoing through the apartment. She found Jake sleeping soundly beside her and decided to investigate the noise herself. She walked through the chilling cold, guided by the pale moonlight seeping in through the windows. The laughter seemed to be coming from the direction of the hidden room. The thought filled her with a sense of dread, but she felt an inexplicable pull towards it. As Emma neared the room, the sound of laughter turned into a soft lullaby, the melody eerily familiar. She pushed the door open and gasped at what she saw. There, in the middle of the room, was a translucent figure of a little girl, the glow around her illuminating the darkness. She was holding the antique locket they had found, and she seemed to be humming to it. Frozen in shock, Emma watched as the spirit of the girl turned to look at her. She had the same eyes as the girl in the photograph, innocent yet filled with a profound sadness. Emma felt a chill run through her, her breath hitching in her throat. The spirit gave her a small smile before disappearing, leaving the locket hovering in midair for a moment before it dropped to the floor. Emma rushed back to Jake, her heart pounding in her chest. She woke him up, her words tumbling out incoherently. Jake, struggling to shake off his sleep, followed Emma to the hidden room. But it was just as they had left it, the locket lying on the floor being the only proof of Emma's encounter. This incident marked a turning point in their lives at apartment 13. Emma had come face to face with the reality they had been trying to dismiss. Their apartment was haunted, and they were living amidst entities from a world beyond their understanding. As Emma and Jake grappled with this chilling revelation, they had little idea that their connection with the spirits of apartment 13 was about to get even more personal and terrifying. Chapter 8. Ties That Bind. In the wake of Emma's encounter with the spirit, the couple found it hard to dismiss the strange occurrences as mere coincidences. Jake, the ever-skeptical scientist, began to entertain the idea that perhaps they were dealing with something beyond their knowledge. The uncanny resemblances in the photograph and their encounters resonated with a chilling clarity now. Emma, meanwhile, felt a strange connection with the spirit of the little girl. She wondered about the life Emily had led in apartment 13 and the circumstances of her existence in the spiritual realm. They continued reading Margaret's diary, which revealed more about the antique locket. It was a family heirloom passed down through generations and was believed to harbor a protective spirit. However, it appeared that the spirit within had grown malevolent over time, its nature drastically changing after a terrible tragedy befell Emily. Margaret's entries became increasingly erratic and distressed towards the end. They spoke of Emily's untimely death and how it had plunged her and Edward into despair. Margaret mentioned the spirit in the locket turning vengeful, the family's sorrow seemingly fueling its transformation. The diary ended abruptly, with Margaret expressing her fear of the spirit they had once revered. A chill ran down their spines as they read the last entry. The dots were starting to connect, drawing a grim picture of apartment 13's past. The haunting, the locket, the hidden room, and now the ghost of Emily. It all pointed towards a disturbing truth. Emma and Jake realized that their lives were now eerily intertwined with the tragedy that had struck the apartment's previous occupants over a century ago. Unbeknownst to them, their journey into the apartment's past was far from over. They were yet to discover how deep these ties ran and the chilling connection they had unwittingly formed with the spirit in the locket. Chapter 9. A Sinister Presence. Following their unsettling discoveries, the occurrences in apartment 13 escalated. The haunting was no longer limited to just strange sounds and cold drafts. Emma and Jake began to notice a change in their behavior and feelings when inside the apartment. They would frequently feel strangely down and experienced unsettling nightmares. One night, Jake woke up to find Emma sleepwalking. She was singing a soft lullaby, the same one that the spirit of Emily had been humming. Emma led him into the hidden room, her eyes vacant. In her trance, she picked up the locket, her voice growing louder. Jake, terrified, managed to wake Emma up, and the locket fell to the floor, its chain breaking in the process. Upon waking, Emma had no recollection of her actions. This incident, coupled with their feelings of unease, led the couple to a terrifying realization. The nasty spirit that Margaret had written about in her diary, the one supposedly trapped in the locket, was now free and was beginning to influence them. Margaret's entries mentioned a local spiritualist she had consulted towards the end. Emma and Jake, desperate and fearing for their safety, decided to seek him out. They discovered that the spiritualist had long passed, but his granddaughter, Luna, had followed in his footsteps. Luna agreed to visit apartment 13, her curious nature piqued by their story. As she stepped inside the apartment, she immediately sensed a powerful entity. She confirmed their fears about the malevolent spirit, warning them that they were in great danger. The spirit was growing stronger and was beginning to latch onto their energy. The chilling events and Luna's warning marked a significant turning point. Emma and Jake were not just spectators to a haunting, they were now part of it, entangled with a vengeful spirit. Their fight was no longer about revealing the apartment's secrets. It was about their survival. Chapter 10. Preparations for battle. Faced with an escalating threat, Emma and Jake knew they had to take action. They decided to stay at a nearby hotel for a few nights for their safety, but they understood that running was not a permanent solution. Guided by Luna, they began preparing to confront the malevolent spirit. Luna educated them about the paranormal world, explaining that the spirit was feeding off their fear and energy. To combat it, they would need to stand their ground and assert their dominance over the apartment. It was their home now, not the spirit's. They spent their days gathering supplies Luna recommended. This included a variety of herbs, crystals, candles, and other items typically used in spiritual rituals. The couple also spent time learning how to center themselves and harness their energy positively, a vital aspect of their upcoming battle. Meanwhile, Luna conducted research on her own, delving into her grandfather's old notes and records. She found references to apartment 13, uncovering a forgotten ritual her grandfather had suggested to Margaret to imprison the vengeful spirit once again. Feeling a mixture of fear and determination, Emma and Jake returned to apartment 13. The atmosphere felt even colder and more unwelcoming than before, as if the spirit was aware of their intentions. But they were resolved to reclaim their home and bring peace to Emily's spirit. Armed with knowledge, courage, and Luna's guidance, they were preparing to face off with the wicked entity residing in their apartment. But they had no idea what truly awaited them or the strength of the entity they were about to confront. Chapter 11. The Showdown. The night of the showdown was a moonless one, the darkness outside seeming to echo the gloom within apartment 13. Luna arrived, her presence comforting amidst the palpable tension. She instructed Emma and Jake to stay strong and focused, reminding them that their willpower was their most potent weapon. They began the ritual in the hidden room, where the haunting had originated. Luna led them through a series of chants, her voice resonating through the chilling silence. Emma and Jake followed, their voices shaky but determined. Suddenly, the temperature dropped drastically, their breaths turning into mist in front of them. A sense of dread filled the room as the spirit made its presence known. The lights flickered, and an unseen force seemed to be pushing against them. But Emma and Jake stood their ground, their joined hands holding firm. In response to their defiance, the spirit's attacks escalated. Objects started flying around the room, and a terrifying growl echoed through the apartment. Luna shouted over the chaos, her chants growing louder, more commanding. Then, in the midst of the turmoil, they saw her, Emily. The little girl was standing in the corner of the room, her figure shimmering. But unlike her previous spirits, she didn't appear sad or scared. Instead, she looked angry and defiant. Emily seemed to be fighting against an unseen force, her small figure wavering but holding strong. With a sudden surge of determination, Emma stepped forward, picking up the broken locket. She shouted at the vengeful spirit, asserting their right to live in the apartment without fear. As if responding to her words, the locket began to glow brightly, the light engulfing the room. What happened next was a blur. There was a deafening noise, a rush of wind, and then silence. As they opened their eyes, the apartment felt different, lighter, warmer. The oppressive presence was gone. In its place was a sense of peace they hadn't felt since they moved into apartment 13. Chapter 12. The Outcome. In the silence that followed the confrontation, Emma, Jake, and Luna surveyed the apartment. The room was a mess, evidence of the physical manifestation of their showdown. Yet, despite the chaos, they felt a sense of calm and tranquility. They found Emily's spirit standing where they had last seen her. This time, there was no anger or defiance in her eyes. Instead, she looked at peace. She smiled at them, her form gradually becoming translucent, and then she was gone, leaving only the faint echo of her laughter. Exhausted but victorious, Emma and Jake thanked Luna for her help. She left them with a warning to respect the forces they did not fully understand, and to remember that their home had once belonged to others. In the days that followed, Emma and Jake worked on restoring the apartment. They repaired the damages and even managed to fix the locket, choosing to keep it as a reminder of their extraordinary journey. As they put their home back together, they discovered that life in apartment 13 had become surprisingly ordinary. The eerie sounds and strange occurrences were gone. The chill had been replaced by a comforting warmth. Their home felt like their own, but while their days were filled with normalcy, their nights were a different story. They began to have shared dreams of Emily, Margaret, and Edward, fragments of the family's happier times in apartment 13. It was as if the family was sharing their memories, the apartment's way of acknowledging its new occupants.